Now, when it comes to studying the Bible, there are so many different ways to take notes. And when it comes to journaling, there are lots of different journals. Some people buy journaling Bibles, and some people have separate physical journals, all of that. And people ask me all the time about those two things, about how I organize my note taking in Bible study and what I learn as I'm studying and the research that I do or what I learn from Bible Hub or comparisons or what I get out of my study Bible, how I organize those notes. And then people also ask me about my journaling. And so I like to keep things really simple. So when it comes to all of that, I use this and I use this. And I use one app called OneNote. It's made by Microsoft. It used to only be something that came with a purchase subscription. Now you can create a free account and use OneNote for free. OneNote syncs across all of your devices. So whether you are on your laptop or you're on your desktop or you're on your phone or you're on a tablet, you have an Android, you have an app, it does not matter. It will sync everything across everything. So in this video, here's what I want to do. I'm going to walk you step by step as if I was starting from scratch, how I would create my notebook, why I create one notebook for my Bible studies in OneNote and one for my journaling, how I use each of those. And because this is going to be a tutorial that's going to walk through all of that, I am going to just create chapters here on YouTube so that you can see if there's a piece that you already understand what an overview of OneNote, you can skip that section that I'll be doing in just a couple minutes. And if you need to come back to find something and when you're setting yours up, then you can find that. So this is going to be a robust tutorial on how I set up all of my note taking for Bible study and how I set up and use OneNote for journaling. Before we dive into that, I want to make sure that you have my free resource, The Simplest Way to Study Any Bible Passage. So if you don't have that already, you can click the link below, or you can just go to keithfarron.com/simplestway. Okay, first an overview of what OneNote is and how it works. And then we'll go ahead and set up the notebooks as if we were starting from scratch. So you remember these? That were notebooks with pages and they had dividers in them. Some of them had the colored tabs that would stick out. Well, if you ever use one of these, then you can understand OneNote, because when you open up OneNote, your notebooks, which would be like a stack of these, if you had different notebooks, and this is my work notebook, and this is my Bible study notebook, and this is my journal notebook. So the notebooks think of them as your physical book. Then all these tabs across the top that you can make whatever color you want are like those tabs that create it, and they're simply called sections. And then down whatever section you're in, like right now I'm in my study from James, and I've got as many pages as I want, and I can add them, I can delete them, I can drag them, and I can move them however I want to do that, and organize them however I want. But you think of it in terms of notebooks and sections and pages is how it is organized. Now, I like to have, as you can see here, a notebook for my Bible studies, and a notebook for my journal. So if I was starting from scratch, here is what I would do. I would come in, you open up OneNote the very first time. It's going to ask you to create a notebook, and if you've already got OneNote installed, you just simply click the plus, go to where you want it, and I'm going to name this Bible Study Sample and create that notebook. Then, and we'll see, not now. I don't want anybody to join this yet. Okay, and so you see now Bible Study Sample with a new section. So what I like to do is I like to have my sections be the books or the topics that I'm studying. So let's say that you're doing the first thing is rename. And so let's say that I am studying First John right now. And so I want to do that. Let's say in a Bible study that I'm in, we're doing a series on joy. So I'm going to have all my notes on this topic of joy. And if you've got several, you can create them all. This is one of the reasons why I like to actually create my notebook. You can do all of this on your tablet or your phone, but I just find that the initial creation of your notebook and sections and that kind of thing, it's just easier to set up. And then you're just adding one little thing when you're on your tablet. So if I've got that, and then I'm studying on my own, a thing on marriage. So I've got my sections, and then you've got your pages. So and you can just kind of add these as you go, or if you know that you're going to want to be, as you're studying First John, you're going to want to do some background studies. And then you're going to want to have a book outline, and you're going to want to have some life application, and maybe I've talked about in other videos about Bible praying, so you can have some scriptures that you then turn into prayer. So I'm just going to create those for now. And so now we've got these different sections underneath the the notebook of Bible studies, and then I've got pages in there. And so that is how quick and easy it is to set it up. Then I like to have, for me personally, I like to have my Bible study notes accessible when I'm journaling, but I don't want them all combined, because I don't always journal only about my Bible study, journal about life and everything. And so if I was doing that, I would create another one called, I'm just going to do it for this video, journal sample. And I'm creating that. And then here is how I set up my journal. My journal, the way that I like to do it is I like to have one page that is my journal is just one section. You could do this however you want. You could maybe put months across, but what I like to do is I like to have January, and then I add a page and I do January 1st, and you'll see in a second so I'm just gonna January 2nd, and I would create. You can create the first year that you do this. You can create. You can just create them one day at a time. But this is something that my pastor, when I was a youth pastor back in my 20s, 100 years ago, my pastor, he had notebooks like this, but he would have one notebook for each month, and then he would take the day of the year, so the date of the year, he would put that on a page, and then he would journal, and the next day he would skip several pages, and then he would write the next date. And what he would do then is he would come back each year and be able to then add on to his January 1st or January 2nd page. So for one thing I like about OneNote is I can highlight these, and let's see, can I indent it? Make it a subpage, and then and making it come back decrease navigate. There we go. So I have January, and so now that I've been doing this for several years, I can then come in, and I don't type out my journal, I handwrite it. And so I'll show you more of a sample of what I do with my journal when I'm actually on my tablet in the mornings journaling and how I set that up. But I love to be able to come back. Like I'm now on my 3rd year of using this same format in OneNote. And so it's really cool for me to go back and be able to read what I was journaling about on this day in 2024. And then in 2025, and now in 2026, to be able to look at that. And as this grows, because you're not limited to the amount of content that you put on a page or even the number of pages, then I foresee that 6 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I could look back at what God was doing. I put my prayers in there, everything into the journal. So that is how I would set it up, and the beauty of having it set up like this. If we go back to Bible studies, and let's say that I was doing 1 John, and I had I was doing something on Bible Hub, and I was looking at 1 John 1:1, and I was doing some study, and I wanted to, my normal translation is the BSB, but I really like the way that the NIV worded this particular one. I can then just go ahead and copy it, go back into OneNote, and I'm just gonna say like text comparison, whatever, if I want a page of that. And then I can say John 1:1 and paste in what I copied from there. And the beauty of when you use a different app, you use a different website for your Bible study, some of your research that you're doing, is that I really like about OneNote is I now have, from copying it from there, not only do I have the note in line with all of my other research and thoughts and prayers and everything around 1 John, but that particular note that I copied, it always, when you're coming from a browser and you just copy it, something, and paste it, it will actually include the link back to that website, back to that page, that exact page on the website, so that if you ever want to go back, or you didn't finish your study, you took some notes, but you want to get back to that page because there were a lot more notes, you're reading an online commentary or something like that, and this can be super helpful, because for me, I start something as a personal Bible study, it most likely is going to at some point creep into a sermon. And so when I want to go and I want to do further research on something, I can know the exact links that I did without having to go and redo research. I could just go click this link and go back and compare a bunch of other translations if I was then going to preach on 1 John chapter 1 and include verse 1. So that is how I set it up initially, and some of the reasons why I like that. And so now I'll show you what it looks like when you are on your tablet. So let's switch over to the tablet. All right, so now I have this open on my tablet, and you can see the way they've organized it. It's actually even a little bit easier to see the progression of notebooks listed in the left column, and then the tabs or sections listed in the middle, and then the pages. And so whichever one you have selected, which when we were on the computer, I didn't create any new pages, but if you just name it whatever you want, I like it when you go into a page, then it assumes you want to be on that page. You can name it whatever you want. I can't remember if we were on marriage. Let's just say, let's say I was on the marriage one. And so I can just name it whatever I want, and then now I can type things, I can copy and paste things, I can handwrite things, and whatever I want to do there. And then you'll see there are a couple ways to get back. If you tap the little in the upper left hand right by the D in date, it'll bring back the whole array if you want to be going to a different section, something like that. But if you are in the far upper right hand corner by the battery indicator up there, if I tap that, then it just gives me kind of the pages in that section of the notebook. And that's frequently what I will end up doing. I'm not typically going from studying being in one notebook. The time that I do that is if I'm switching to my journal. But I really love being able to come back and see other things that I've done and copy things from one place. It's another thing is if you are copying something from if let's say that in my First John study I had learned something that let's pretend that this quote is instead of just being a comparison of translation, it's from something in chapter 4 where it's talking about loving one another and everything, and I am doing some study on marriage and I want to bring that over there, some of what I studied when I was studying First John. Well, I can actually take this and I can copy it. You can see copy. I can copy a link to that page if I want to share that with somebody. But if I want to paste that from First John into my thing on marriage, now it doesn't move it. I can move it. That was one of the options. But now when I go to marriage, it has brought that text comparison in. So if I want to do a whole page, then I can do that. But if I just want to, copy the text that was on there or copy a picture like this lasso effect, I'm able to just grab something there and then just copy it, and I could paste it into something if I only want a portion of one. So I just find the ability to insert things, to copy things from other places. You can insert pictures. If I wanted to insert a picture from my photo gallery, oftentimes I will do that when I am journaling. If there's something that happened that day and I want a photo memory of that and I know it's on my device, because both my tablet and my phone are both Apple devices, the pictures I take on my phone show up on my tablet. So if I want to go into a journal entry and I want to put a picture on there, then then I can just go into the insert and put photos in there and that kind of thing. So that is how I use the Bible study piece, and I like personally to I'm gonna go into my own and show you, like with James, how some of the pages that I like to include. These could be things that you could explore if you wanted to, and then we'll get into the journal. But when I am internalizing something, so you can see this is really, really small on your page, but you see these letters. When there's something that I am trying to internalize as well as just study, then I like one of the methods I use is, and I'm not going to get into all this right now, is the first letter method, where each letter that you see on your screen there is the book of James, right? In chapter 1, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes of the dispersion, greetings. And so I like to have that there. The purpose statement and foundation outline, it's part of the Bible study, my relational Bible study. If you want to know my whole Bible study methodology that I use, you can go to relationalbiblestudy.com. I'll link to that as well below. Then I wanted to track some different themes that were in James, and a teaching outline, since I'm teaching it. When I do word studies and different things, that I want to be able to go back to that passage and see the deep study I've done, different notes that I've taken, the background study on the author, background study on the atmosphere, and background study on the audience. So those are some of the pages that I like to keep in my notes. So now I can go back. I just studied James this last year, and I could go back 4 years from now and look what I studied and look at all of that research in without finding a notebook or anything like that. So that is how I use the Bible study piece. For me, when I go, let's go to this journal sample, and you'll notice that I didn't create and rename the different section when we were setting this whole thing up. But one thing that I've done in the past is I will maybe rename this, rename it just journal, like maybe even daily journal. And then you can actually add right here on this. Once you have it set up, I just find it's really, really easy to then go in and say, I want another section that is my 2026 goals. And then if there are some other things that would fit into the things that I'm pondering when I would be journaling, that I want to be a part of my journal, goals, different things I want to explore, some topics I might want to study later on. I don't know, different things. So you could have your goals in there as well, and then you could just add another one. You could even just have it be goals, and then have the pages be 2026, 2027. So you can organize it however you want in there. But when I am doing, I told you that I was going to kind of give you the whole thing of how I go about keeping my notes and copying, pasting, and doing all that with Bible study. But with journaling, I like to keep it really simple. I like, for me personally, if I have too many journal prompts and all that, I know some people love the idea of having a journal prompt, and that journal prompt is given, there may be in a devotional, there's a journal prompt, and I've got even some of those in my scripture journey books. And then having something different to journal about is really helpful. For me, the rhythm of journaling has been helpful in that I do two different things. When I come into January 1st, here's what I would do. And today's not January 1st, but if today was January 1st, then I would take that and I would write down the year. And so I'd go 2026, and then I like to the way that I think about it is I don't want to journal everything that happened, but I always write down yesterday's wins, and I just reflect back, because I journal in the morning. So if you journal at night, you could write today's wins. But what I like to do, and it could be an event, it could be, I got together with lunch with my friend John, and it could be something like that. Or it could be that something that didn't go well, but there was a lesson that I learned about how to not edit a YouTube video, whatever it is. I don't know if you can hear my dog going crazy. I think there's a raccoon in my backyard. And so I typically write down at least 3 wins, and then I just write out my journal entry. So I just write out my journal entry for the day, whatever it is. I typically journal as a prayer. So the way that I've gotten into the rhythm, I didn't set out to do this, but I started instead of just kind of reflecting on the day. As I was looking at what I had read studied, because I journal after I read the Bible. But I just found that I was, as part of my Bible praying, as part of my own rhythm, I just started writing my journal entries as prayers to God. And so I typically write out my prayer, my journal, and then I write amen. And then next year, when I come to the same date, then I'll just write down 2027, yesterday's wins. And so, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, when I got to the point where I was repeating years, and now here in 2026, I am on my 3rd year on some entries of journaling using this journal and this template. And it's just been really, really cool to just look at those snapshots of the journal. And so there you have it. That is my approach to how I go about studying the Bible using OneNote, or how I capture my notes and how I go about journaling. If you want to know the exact apps that I use when I am the apps that I use on my phone and on my tablet, then you're going to want to check out the video that just popped up, because that is going to go through the ones that I use and exactly how I use them. So I'll see you in that video or another video, and have a great day.